Good morning and welcome to Mission CISD's first Facebook Live on what every parent needs to know about vaping, fentanyl, and alcohol. Today we have a few guests with us that will be addressing these topics. I'm Cynthia Ibarra and I will be your host this morning. But first, let's get our official welcome from our superintendent, Dr. Carol G. Perez.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad you are able to join us for an important live discussion today here on our Facebook page. This will be a first for us and could lead to many more live discussions on many different topics throughout the remainder of the school year. For this morning, we are focusing on vaping, fentanyl, and alcohol use due to the growing concern. They are impacting communities and schools throughout the nation and our state. Not only have we invited special guests who will be joining us in a conversation style presentation this morning, but we will also be taking your questions and answering as many as we can live. Please know that we are continuing to include the safety and well being of all of our children in all that we do. And we hope that this morning's conversations will provide you with some helpful information. Thank you for joining us today.
Medina from the Behavioral Health Solutions of South Texas. She will provide us with information on the dangers of vaping. And at the end of the segment, we will take a few questions from our viewers through Facebook Messenger. Welcome.
Thank you.
If you could just tell us a little bit about your background and what it is that you do for your organization.
So my name is Marina. I'm a prevention specialist with Behavioral Health Solutions. A little bit about the organization. So basically, what we do is we go out to the community, we do presentations, activities, ranging from basically pre-K all the way to senior citizens. So we do have a big age group. We also service over 19 counties here in South Texas. We have 5 different programs, which is prevention, intervention, treatment, recovery, and research. So we have a lot of different programs in our organization, and all of them are cost-free. So everything is free for the community. So that's kind of where we go. We are mostly substance-based, but we can also help out with other community resources as well. So anything within that, yeah, we're like a big organization.
So, diving right in, what are the main differences between smoking a vape and smoking a cigarette?
The biggest difference, I wouldn't say there's a much difference. The only thing is that one is obviously electronic and the other one is tobacco based, right? Um, First of all, they both have nicotine, so it's equally the same aspect, right? There's not really a difference. Of course, the chemicals are kind of about the same. There's about 5,000 chemicals within each kind of vaping or tobacco, so there's not really a difference. Of course, vaping first was made to kind of do cessation of smoking, but unfortunately, it kind of backfired for the youth, right? So there's not really, I would say, a difference to it. It's just that the kids want to kind of make it seem like there is, but
Does one contain more nicotine than the other?
no, they kind of contain about the same nicotine. Yes, yes.
And I see you brought some vape pens with you today. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that and maybe show our audience.
So this is one of the vape pens. This is not a chargeable one. This is just simple. This is just you want a used one, toss it away. That's basically what it is. Some of these, they're thinner. They look like a USB. They're thinner. They're kind of thinner in the size and thinner here too. Both those are rechargeable, kind of like this one. So that one, those are rechargeable. This one isn't. There's also this one, which is kind of more for like the where you can basically the only thing you purchase is this every single time, which is about $40. The same thing for this one. These are about $40 each. The little vape pens are about $40. The same as this one. The only thing is that this one you can only purchase this top part, and this you keep. This is a rechargeable one, which is why I brought this because this is you can see where you put the rechargeable, the USB, you plug it in, and that's how it's rechargeable. So basically, these are where you put like the flavorings. This is where you put whatever kind of flavor you can imagine. There's cereals, there's fruits, there's donuts, any kind of flavor you can imagine. There's those. So that's just basically what it is for. Same thing with these. This is the same thing. Whatever kind of flavor the kids are into or they're like coming out with, the same thing is this. You can actually, if you kind of take a closer sniff at it, you can smell the flavor that's coming out of it. So these are just some, of course. Like I said, there's differently. There's some that use like USB. There's some that are bigger. There's some that are smaller. I've also seen, I've seen in some articles that they're coming out with like hoodies that they can use and they have like the strings and they can just inhale it. So there's a lot of varieties as time goes on. Of course, more and more coming out. There's not a specific one to look for, but I mean, if you see kids are always like with their hands to their mouth, or you see them kind of jittery, or like you seem like really anxious, and more than probably that's what they. If you see them close to their mouth, then probably that's what it is.
And we talk about this and we demonstrate these vape pens just for parents so that parents can identify these type of vape pens and know what they are. So thank you for showing us those different types of vape pens, Miss Medina. What is the liquid substance inside the vape? What does it contain, other than the nicotine?
So it contains about 5,000 chemicals within these vape pens. Like about 5,000 chemicals. Some can be like cadmium, lead, acetone, nickel, a bunch of other ones, right? There's mostly are like metal, but there's about 5,000 of them. What it contains, it's nicotine, the flavoring, like glycerin, and so basically what it's based upon is like the oils. Because once it heats up, those oils are what heats up and makes it kind of smooth, as they can say. So that's what kind of makes it smooth, the oils and everything else that basically is in there. But yeah, that's kind of.
Which obviously is really not very good for our bodies.
No.
And going on to the next question, what are the, if any, health risks are there to inhaling the substance?
Yeah, so something interesting I always tell the kids is the oils. Like glycerin, you use it to consume it, right? It's like kind of sugary, we use it for like daily stuff. We consume it, kind of. But I always tell we consume it, we eat it, it comes out, right? But with the oils, when you inhale it, there's nowhere for it to come out, right? So it sticks to your lung. So that's what kind of the popcorn lungs. That's where it comes into play. The popcorn lungs. So basically, popcorn lungs is basically named after the oil that's called diacetyl. So that's like a buttery substance. That's like kind of the flavoring of it. Once the kids start inhaling those oils or diacetyl, what happens is it starts sticking to their lungs. So that's basically like the tar kind of the smoking. It's diacetyl. Once it starts sticking to their lungs, there's really no treatment for it. There's no going back. So your lungs will stay like that forever, basically. Like I was saying, there's treatment for it where it can kind of calm down your cough. You can calm down, like, kind of think of it like bronchitis. I was telling, like bronchitis for cholesterol. Their lungs are literally being all with the oils, right? So I was telling like that's kind of what they have. They have a bad cough. They have a lot of congestion that comes with that. So there's no treatment for that, unfortunately. There is treatment, but no going to recover from that. There's no going back from that. Another one could be like probably like oxygen tanks. That could be another one. So I always let them know like, hey, do you want to see yourself living life to the fullest? Going places, having your house, your kids, just living a normal life. Because once you get to a medical position where you don't want to be, then you're gonna be like, hey, I wish I would have done this differently. I wish I wouldn't have done that. I wish I wouldn't have put this in my lungs. So think about the now. Don't think about the future, right? But think about the now. How do you want to see yourself in 5, 10 years? How? Do you want to carry your oxygen tank, or do you want to just breathe the fresh air? So yes, that's kind of one that that's mostly been heard of. I know here in the Rio Grande Valley, there's been about like 14 and 15 cases, and that was like in 2018. We haven't really gotten back that up to now. But yeah, there's been cases here in the valley too. It's an interesting disease for babies.
So prolonged use of vape pens can cause damage to your lungs, which will require you to use oxygen tanks because obviously you can't take in that breath.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is. It kind of suppresses your breath citizens because in your lungs you have like the little sacs, right? So those sacs are the ones that are being consumed basically with oil. So once they start filling up, and that's kind of where the air doesn't know where to go, right? So that's kind of why it's a very dangerous disease.
So we talked a little bit about the warning signs of what vaping, with vaping, what the warning signs of that are. But for a parent, how can they identify those warning signs? Like if their child has been vaping or is vaping, what are the little things that they can look for to identify that they are vaping?
So there's quite a few, right? But like I was telling parents, you guys are the ones that are gonna really know and really know your child. To the way their moods are, to the way they're eating, to the way they're sleeping, to the way they're acting towards family members, or even to their friends, or even to people in the community, right? So that's my number one suggestion for them, to kind of know how their kids are. Of course, one aspect can be like maybe mood changes, because that's what happens with nicotine. When you consume a lot of nicotine, your mood changes, the mood swings, right? So that's one. Of course, I was telling me like, what if my child's already like kind of anguish and he's already like that? I understand, I get it, but once you see it becoming more prevalent and being more than what it is, and that's kind of a warning sign. Like, hey, what's going on? Is something happening? Is something going on in school and how at the house? How is it? What's going on, right? Another one can be like sleep changes as well. Sometimes they stay out up the night. I know sometimes nowadays they stay up at night playing video games and stuff like that. But once it comes that they have like insomnia or they just can't sleep at all, then that's kind of a warning sign. So another one can be like eating habits. Another thing that comes with nicotine is eating habits that changes. Either because you get a lot of nausea or diarrhea or vomiting and stuff like that. So that can be another warning sign for their parents to look at what they're consuming. Are they consuming like the way they were supposed to, like the way they are before, or are they eating less? Are they eating more? Like what's happening, right? So like they are the number one to know how their child is. And even with the youth, they know their friends, how they act, how they are, so they can be another aspect of prevention to say, hey, you know what, my friend is acting differently, he's being more rebellious or being more angry or anything like that. So they can also help out their friends as well, just by looking at how they're acting and how they're going on a daily basis with this sort of substance misuse.
Is vaping ever recommended as an alternative to smoking cigarettes?
Like I said in the beginning, vaping was made to kind of fit smoking. It was made for that. In a point, in the beginning, of course, they kind of made it for that. But as time went on, the youth who had never smoked or people who had never smoked got more addicted to it. Yeah, but it was used. Sometimes they do suggest people who smoke to do use the vaping, but unfortunately, the ones who kind of use it the most is the teens who have never used smoke or done any other substances.
So what would your message be? Completely not to do any of those.
No, yeah. Like for example, with these vaping pens, some kids assume, hey, you know what, man, miss, it's just smoke, it's just water. It's the number one thought they think that it's just water, it doesn't have anything. But like I said, these have over like 5,000 chemicals that we have no idea what other chemicals are.
Well, and since it's so new, I mean, there really isn't a lot of research of how it affects people long term.
Yeah. So that's another scary thought. Like right now, we're seeing that they're having like the difficulties with the lung. We don't know how long or what else is going to come about from these type of things, right? I know back then there was like, I was like 2013, 14, they were coming out that they were exploding in people's hands because these are basically battery, right? So whenever you put them in your pocket, they're heating up or not heating up. So there's also other risks like, for that, not just inside but also outside of your body, right? So yeah, there's a lot of things to look at this. It's not just it's just water, it's just vape, it's just nothing. There are health risks for this, and then there's a bunch of articles that you can kind of look up just to kind of have more information about them.
What are the consequences of someone under 21 getting caught with a vape pen?
The vape pen. Yes. So here in Texas, they do have a law that's called Texas State Tobacco Law. So basically, if you are under 21, basically it's illegal, right? It used to be 18.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah.
It's illegal.
It's illegal. Yes, it's illegal for them to have it. Before it was under the age of 18. But as time went on and we saw that they were rising and all of this was rising, we changed to 21. But the law basically states that if you are being caught with one of these substances, then they will put you like in an awareness class or like a tobacco awareness class or community hours just to kind of get you on the right track, right? They can also fine you with $250 the youth as well. If by any chance the youth is trying to figure out how to drive and they have a permit and they don't attend those community service modules, then they can have their license suspended or just continue, right? If on the other aspect, if they see an adult setting into a minor, then that's kind of already jail time, that's a misdemeanor and all that stuff, so it's kind of harder for them. But I mean, yeah, there's laws for them. I mean, some kids don't even know about these laws, so it's really interesting to let them know, hey, you know what, they are consequences for you. These are it. Like I said, some of them don't even know that there's laws for these things. So yeah, and even for the stores, like I know, I have parents tell me like, both because we go to some store and they're selling it to the kids. Like in our organization, we do go out to these retail stores and we make sure that they have a permit, which is a green permit to sell these kinds of vapes. So we do those retail checks to check that everything's in order. Are you selling to minors? How is it going? You know, so we do have them in check. And by any chance, I've had some parents tell me they can also get in touch with their Texas state and just let them know, hey, you know what, this is some weird activity happening in the store. Can you just come check it and stuff? So there is some ways that they can also help with the community.
Our district, like many other districts, does prohibit vaping. All information and vaping consequences can be found in our district student handbook, starting on page 39, just in case any of our parents want to look up the consequences and everything having to do with vaping or any of the other topics we're going to be talking about today. Where can I go to get additional information with you? Online, what is a trusted source to get more information on vaping? I know that you have 1-800 numbers.
Yes, so I have 800 numbers. I have like crisis texting line for the kids or for adults as well. You can also look up our website, which is www.bhssd.org, where we have our programs and kind of the laws about Texas as well. Another would be like SAMHSA, that's another one for substance awareness. Also, so yeah, those are really some good digital information.
We're going to take some questions that are coming in. What are some of the warning signs we as parents should look for? I heard kids' appetites could be affected.
Yes, so kids' appetites, like I said, but these substances, since it does contain nicotine and a bunch of other chemicals that we don't know, appetite can be one that changes because of the nicotine. Like I said, it causes nausea, it causes diarrhea, it causes vomiting, it causes a lot of sweating. So sometimes with these vapes, let me give you an example. So sometimes with these types of vapes, when the kids wake up, the first thing they think is, hey, I need a fix because this was going to help me through the day. So that's the first thing they know, right? Sometimes because they do these things in the morning, they don't get hungry. So this is like their food for them. So when you see that happening, you see that's why I said, you see their changes happening with their consumption of food, then you say, well, you know what, something's kind of going on because my child used to eat in the morning and now doesn't eat. So what's he changing from the day? What is he changing that's so different than he want to eat? So that's why it's really interesting for the parents to really know their child and really know how they take it day by day, so they can know, hey, you know what, something's changing. Are they doing something they're not supposed to? And I mean, it's not just only with these, also with other substances as well, unfortunately. So yeah, just get to know your child.
Yeah. Great. In closing, oh wait, is there another question coming in? Oh, that's all the questions that we have for now on that particular topic. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us today?
Yes. So my final thing I want to show you guys is this youth group that we have for an organization. It's basically for the teens who are 12 to 17 years old. Basically what they do is they go to the community, they do presentations, they do community fairs, they talk about substance awareness just to kind of get the youth away from those type of things, right? They help out the community. They do like community hours, community services, they do a bunch of stuff outside in the community to get the kids interested. So they do have meetings every other Saturday in our building. Sorry. So it's a really interesting youth group that they, in case they are interested in any type of these things, they should definitely think about joining it just to kind of get more information or just to learn more about the community.
Thank you for for sharing this with us. We'll go ahead and share this with the rest of you. We'll post it on our district Facebook. So look out for this particular flyer on our district Facebook page. Moving on. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing this information with us. And I'm sure that we can reach out to you in case we have other questions later on that come in from our parents. But thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Hold on. As we prepare for our next presenter, let's take a look at how fentanyl impacted one of our own Valley families in the special interview with Sandra Bagwell.
So first off, Ms. Bagwell, thank you so much for being here and talking to us today. I know it's a very difficult story to share, so we really appreciate your time for being here. Yes. So first off, can you share with us a little bit about Ryan's story, how he grew up, the kind of person he was?
Ryan has always been just a silly kid, just a fun-loving, super sensitive kid. It was fun. I mean, it was funny. We would always have to be very careful about how we would address things with him, because then he'd get hurt because he was really sensitive. But very kind. Loved to make friends of all ages. I mean, he knew older gentlemen and fishing buddies and stuff. So he just made friends with whoever. He was just like an old soul.
And so
He did have a passion. He did have a passion for fishing. That was his goal. If he could make money off of fishing, that would have been like his career. But eventually, that's not where the money was. So, and he did enjoy playing golf as well. He was on the varsity team at Sharyland Pioneer all 4 years.
And so when he graduated high school, what were some of his plans, and what did he want to pursue in life?
He went that year of 2021 when he graduated. He started school at UTRGV. He did one semester, and it was like he barely made it. Ryan had dyslexia, and so he struggled. He really struggled with reading, and I understand that because I'm a reading specialist and I work with dyslexic kids, so I understand the struggle, So he decided, school's not for me right now, and I was fine with it. I understood, but Dad was like, "Okay, well, got to get to work." So he started working at the end of that December 2021 for his dad. A1 Homes in Donna, and he picked up the business like really quick. He was just like he was stubborn at first, don't get me wrong, but he enjoyed it and started selling homes and started making his own money, and it was the happiest we had ever seen him. Yeah.
So are you ready to share what happened on that day?
Yeah. So Ryan decided to go to Mexico, to Progreso, on April 3rd, which is a Sunday. He went with a friend. And it was maybe like his second time that he'd gone, second or third time. Of course, we didn't want him to go. But at that point, he's 19 years old. He was supposed to go to lunch with us, and he was adamant, "No, I'm going to go. Okay. So he purchased a bottle of Percocet in Mexico, obviously thinking it was Percocet. Came home that night in a good mood and had dinner, went upstairs, and we don't know exactly what time he took the Percocet, but he took one Percocet, and he didn't wake up the next day. And that's just been a nightmare, just a living nightmare every single day. I'm the one who found him. So it's just, it's hard. It's hard. And he was only 19 years old. He had his whole life that I know. You know, his yes, he wanted to fish, you know, of course, but he wanted to take over his dad's business and make him proud.
And so, at what point did you realize that it wasn't actually the Percocet that he had taken and that it was actually...
Right, and of course, obviously, he didn't come home and say, "Oh, hey, Mom, I bought a bottle of Percocet," right? He hid that from us, and we didn't know. We knew he was smoking weed, that we didn't know, but we didn't know he was dabbling in pills, experimenting. We didn't know that. So, I mean, when I found him, and then all I could think of was he went to Mexico yesterday. He must have bought something. He must have bought something. Had to have been fentanyl. It had to have been. And of course, we had to wait, 3 months for toxicology. And sure enough, it was the fentanyl that killed him. Yes, he had THC in his system, but that's not what killed him. It was the fentanyl. It was like 11.9 or something. So he had like 5 times the lethal limit because 2 NGs can kill 1 person. So that 1 pill could have killed 5 or 6 people.
That's really cool. And if there was a message you would like for people to take away from writing the story, what would that be?
Well, to the parents out there, I would like them to speak to their kids. Even though we spoke to Ryan, he knew about fentanyl, and it's not out there. It wasn't out there in the media like it is now, but he knew about it. And I guess when you're 19 years old, your kids think they're invincible. They're not invincible. They think at 19, think back when you were 19 or 18 or whatever, and you did things that, oh, nothing's going to happen to me. Nothing's going to happen to me. Well, that's what a normal 19-year-old thinks. Nothing's going to happen to me. Well, yes, nothing's going to happen to you, but now there's fentanyl mixed in with this, and now it's just playing Russian roulette. So parents need to speak to their children about the dangers, and the best thing is just obviously not to take pills. If it's not from a doctor, from a pharmacy, then do not take it. No matter what it is, Adderall, now it's in everything. It's in absolutely every kind of pill, Vicodin, Oxys, Adderall, Percocet, you name it. And weed also, it's found everywhere. So nobody's safe. Nobody's safe right now. So another thing is their phone. Know their passcode. Know your child's passcode. We didn't know ours. We didn't know Ryan's. So it was a long process for DEA to have to go in and crack open the phone. And so, know your child's password. Check their phones. You're paying the bills, right? You're paying the bills, so you should have access to your child's phone. Check their Snapchat, because that, or delete Snapchat. I would delete any social media. Kids can, even through Messenger. That's how they contact dealers, and dealers are everywhere. And they just pop up, hey, I got all these, and they have even little codes for it, little emojis for what kind of pills they have and how much they're selling it. So
is there anything else you'd like to share? Anything we have missed?
Just that Ryan was a great kid. He was a great kid and with a big heart, and we miss him every single day. It's a struggle. But I'm trying to help others because I don't want another family to go through what we're going through. Because it's hell. It really is. he should be here, you know? But, and it's not just Ryan, it's happening all across the United States. It's an epidemic. I'm involved with several groups, Facebook groups, and a coalition that we just started where I'm vice president of. So that's what keeps me going, you know, helping others and fighting for awareness and because yes, you think, oh well, the media's covering. Yes, people know, but people don't know. There's people that don't know. I mean, so hey, what's, you know, I'll talk about what's fentanyl. What's that? You know, and that's the problem. That's the problem. So do your research, parents, and speak to your kids and explain to them that this is poison. It will kill you. It will kill you.
Well, just want to let you know the story you're sharing and Ryan's story. It's changing lives and it's impacting people. So I thank you for going out and sharing it with the Mission CISD community. We really appreciate it.
Yes, of course.
Thank you for your time.
I hope it helps bring awareness.
Thank you, Sandra, for sharing your Ryan's story with us in order to help other families. Our next guest is Haida Commander Juan Cifuentes from Hidalgo County High Intensity Drug Trafficking Areas Task Force that will provide us with insight on the deadly substance known as fentanyl and how it is affecting communities throughout the country. And remember, if you have any questions on this topic, send them to us through Facebook Messenger. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
If you can just tell us a little bit about your background and what it is that you do for the Haida Task Force.
Yes. Good morning again. My background, I'm originally from Progreso, Texas. That's where I grew up, graduating from high school. Followed my career with the University of Texas Pan American, obtained a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Shortly right after, I became a Westfield police officer. That's where I started my law enforcement career in 1999. In 2003, I was blessed to be given the opportunity to start working drug investigations. At that point, I developed partnerships with local, state, and federal agencies working drug cases. In 2006, there was an opening at the Hidalgo County Haida Task Force, and I applied. And I became a Haida Task Force agent. As soon as I started with Haida, standing for High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area, the purpose of Haida is to identify drug trafficking organizations operating in Hidalgo County and/or money laundering organizations which are creating a lot of problems in our county and across the nation. We're in a corridor in South Texas where drug traffickers will smuggle drugs to our ports of entry, like through the actual river. And some of the drugs are staying in Hidalgo County, and other drugs are going across the nation. One of the deadliest drugs that we identified most recently is fentanyl.
How is the task force helping our communities throughout the nation? Because it is not only here locally that Haida, has a presence. It's throughout the country too.
Correct. Through ODCP, there's Haida. The purpose of Haida is to create specialized units to combat the problems of illegal drug smuggling. We identify the drug traffickers. We work together. As an example, here in Hidalgo County, I'm the commander. There's one in Cameron, County, South Texas. Haidas, we work all the way to Valle County, and also in California, Georgia. There's a Haida. So if I'm working a drug investigation in Hidalgo County, and I need assistance because that tractor trailer, that suspect is going to go to Atlanta, with the partnerships of DEA, FBI, and HSI, we work together to identify the person receiving the drugs in Atlanta. The ultimate goal, we want to dismantle, disrupt those drug trafficking organizations and arrest everybody involved in the smuggling of illegal drugs.
Moving into the topic of fentanyl. What is fentanyl and how is it getting into our country?
Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid. It's from 80 to 100 times stronger than morphine. It's administered for pain. There's fentanyl patches for cancer patients. sad to say that the drug traffickers nowadays are lacing pills, powders, cocaine, heroin with fentanyl. Just 2 milligrams of pure fentanyl can cause a person to lose their life. Methods of smuggling and transport. We're so close to the border. It's being smuggled through pill form, through powder form. That's what we're seeing right now in our drug seizures. Before we could identify them as M30s. What does that mean? Basically, it was a blue pill, greenish pill, and it had an M on one side and a 30 on the other side. So that was easier for law enforcement to identify a pill laced with fentanyl. But now, all pills can be laced with fentanyl. We're seeing different colored pills that are testing positive for fentanyl. So that's our concern in our community to educate the public that they're lacing oxycodone, Xanax bars with fentanyl.
And when you say they, who are you talking about? Who is lacing these pills? And how can parents be watchful of those particular pills, them coming across with those particular pills?
When I mean I'm talking about the drug traffickers, the cartels. There's multiple cartels in Mexico, of course, and there's individual other members of that organization operating in the county. So they recruit people. It could be juveniles, youth. That's what they do most of the time. They'll cross the pills through, as an example, to know what is the restricted port of entry. And once the pills get to the U.S., they can stay here. We see that we have arrested individuals trying to smuggle pills to sell a lot at our communities. That's the concern that we have in reference to
I know that you touched a little bit on, people that consume fentanyl and how deadly it is, but can you elaborate a little bit on that? Like the tiniest amount, I'm sure, is deadly. But
Correct. And the amount is an example, so you can imagine when I say 2 milligrams, just imagine your salt shaker at home and you shake it once and all the little granules. That's about 2 milligrams. That can cause a person to lose their lives in reference to the consumption in its pure form. So just imagine these pills are coming across, and if our kids go to Mexico, no por eso. My understanding based on defendant interviews, they're available at any corner in all courts. We've had reports of incidents where people are overdosing to our courts. In other words, they're crossing from Mexico to the U.S., but they took an oxycodone not knowing it was laced with fentanyl, and they started overdosing. What happens in an overdose? What fentanyl does, it causes a person to have issues breathing. So that person starts fainting, and they'll fall to the ground, and they stop breathing. When that occurs, that person needs Narcan, which is a nasal spray. So imagine when we have a flu, an allergy, they prescribe you the nasal spray. It's the same thing. What Narcan does, it'll bring that person back from that overdose. Of course, they still need immediate medical attention, but if they don't administer Narcan, that person can lose their life. In reference to law enforcement, we handle evidence differently nowadays as well, because we could get exposed to fentanyl exposure as well. So when we're processing drug evidence, we handle it differently. We're very cautious. Immediately we seize pills or any powder, we try to determine if there's fentanyl within the actual drug. So the Narcan has been very helpful for us. We carry it in our equipment now. I know in different schools and different locations they have Narcan with the school nurses in case there's an opioid crisis, an overdose at the schools.
what is the time frame from being exposed to fentanyl and administering Narcan? Like, I'm sure that there's a time frame that they have to go ahead and administer that.
Great question. You're correct. Research and incidents reported to us, they told us that it depends, of course, on the person's background, medical, whether they have any other health issues, but it's usually about 20 minutes. So it depends on the quantity of the fentanyl that's in the pill, or in the cocaine, or in the heroin as well. Those are factors that need to be considered in reference to how much time that person has to get that Narcan or that medical attention. But that's what happens. So imagine a person who is taking the oxycodone, and they think it's just oxycodone if they're at home. They take the pill, and they fall asleep, and they stop breathing. So that's what happens. That's what we do some of our people that they don't get that immediate attention because do not can or the medical attention.
And what, for our parents out there, what are the signs of an opioid overdose? Like, how can they tell that, that's what they're going to need is Narcan because they just took a bunch of pills or they took a pill and it's affecting them in a certain way?
I think the key part is the parent. I'm a parent as well. I have a 14-year-old son. He's in 8th grade. I have a 20-year-old daughter, which I'm really proud of. I always give them advice. The key part is the parent, and as a police officer, communications. That's key. I know that we get so busy with work. We all have phones, but we need to put the phones down and talk to our kids. You can identify the indicators when there's something different with your children by their behavior. You know when they're happy. You know when they're sad. Well, what I've noticed in interviews and talking to different people who have experienced, they've been victims of this type of, there's been a change on the children. They're behaving differently. They're talking to different kids. So I think key part is being with them, doing active things, hunting, fishing. But if you see that change, now you're at home, and hopefully it never happens to anyone, but you walk into your son or daughter's bedroom and you see them there on the ground. First thing, see they're breathing. Call 911. They'll send a police officer there as well. Nowadays, the majority of the police departments, I know we were part of an initiative where they were providing Narcan to multiple police departments. They have a Narcan. So if an officer is close by, he can, you're the parent, see your child on the ground, you see pills in the ground, and you see that he's having trouble breathing. He's not responding to you, pushing them or moving them. So when the officer comes and make him aware, I think it's an opioid crisis. I see the pills. He's having trouble breathing. The officer, if they have Narcan, will administer the Narcan. Also, the EMS.
If they do see pills, I mean, can they touch them? I mean, how lethal is fentanyl? Is it lethal to the touch?
Going back to the safety measures that we take even in handling the evidence, what I recommend, especially what you could tell your children is if they ever see pills in the ground at the playground or in a classroom, on the table, don't touch it. Report it to the teacher, nurse, coach, police officer. If your school district has a police department, all of them have gloves. My recommendation is use something so it doesn't touch your skin. We have pores, your hands can be sweating, you don't know how much fentanyl is in the pill. I always get that question, one, okay, it's 2 milligrams, it's laced in the pill. Some people take this and they don't overdose. Why take that risk? You don't know on what corner, what angle the pill, the fentanyl is in that pill. So always the first thing safety, try to use gloves. If you find any pills that you don't know what they are, you can call your local police department. They have drop boxes. Every year, twice a year, DEA and our task force, we partner up and we seize RX medication, prescription medication that is can be disposed, and we destroy those pills. So I believe most of the police departments have those drop boxes. If you have prescription medication, especially controlled substance, depending on your illness, you can dispose of them that way.
Let's take some questions. Oh, MC. How common is fentanyl use in our community? And is it a drug that is just as common as other narcotics?
It is very common. In reference to the overdoses, it's occurring. There's multiple. There's a system called OD mapping that we're trying to be part of. Basically, what that means is a first responder, nurse, a firefighter shows up at the scene and we can determine it was an overdose. It's an application. What they would do is they're male or female overdose, and we keep track of it. There's so many pills out there in our schools, in our communities. We're seizing, well, back in 2018, we were seizing 300 fentanyl pills in our cases. 2022, we're seizing 5,000. 2023, we're seizing it in kilo weight. So it's coming. It's always time prevention measures. Going back to the Narcan, CVS pharmacies have Narcan available to anybody. Cost is about $40. To me, it's an investment. You never know when you might need it. It's always good to have it at home. In case there's an opioid crisis where you have it in your purse, you can help that person. Save that money.
Very good advice. Let me see. What are the consequences for individuals caught trafficking fentanyl in our community? And how can the public report suspected drug activity?
Great question. In reference to prosecution, like I mentioned, we're a HIDA. We work a lot with DEA, FBI, HSI, U.S. Border Patrol, CBP. So we're a local agency. So if it's an investigation that we have of an individual trying to traffic 1 kilo of fentanyl, as an example, it's a first-degree felony. The consequences all depends in reference to the prosecution side. If he has prior convictions, he's in probation. On the federal side, because that's what usually happens, federal agencies will adopt our cases and we file them in the federal prosecution where they use the attorney's office. If this person has prior convictions, their sentencing can start at 10 years. So it's very serious for us. At a certain point in our investigation, they were recruiting juveniles. Same thing with the juvenile courts. They take it very seriously, especially if it's fentanyl pills. A couple of years ago, we had a 17-year-old that was smuggling 5,000 fentanyl pills. He didn't know he was smuggling 5,000 fentanyl pills. And that's my concern. But sometimes they smuggle these pills take to their bodies. So, they don't realize what they have, what they're trying to smuggle. But all the cases they prosecuted, it all depends where the investigation is. Since we look for drug trafficking organizations, we try to prosecute it on the federal side with the use of attorney's office.
That's all the questions that we have for now. But going back to, fentanyl and how drug cartels are recruiting juveniles, do you want to give us a little information on that?
Correct. What we've noticed in our arrests and our investigation, the cartels are recruiting juveniles usually through family. What we noticed in our cases when we started identifying suspects, it's cousins, aunts, they're involved in drug trafficking. That's the first form. Second form is easy financial money that they'll get. That's what they tell them, which is a lie. Usually they'll tell them we'll pay you $1,000 or pay you $5,000 to drive this vehicle. And they also recruit to social media. That's very important for you to view your children's Facebook, Snapchat. That's how they're communicating and selling drugs as well. And the infamous one that when we always detain a juvenile, they told me nothing was going to happen to me because I'm a kid. That's not true. There's legal consequences as a juvenile as an adult as well.
In closing, is there anything else that you would like to add, tell our audience on this particular subject?
Yes, ma'am. When I started law enforcement career in 1999 to now 2023, the drug trends have changed dramatically. When I was growing up in high school, the drugs that were accessible to me are nothing compared to what's out there. Synthetic drugs has increased to vaping, THC, the edibles, the pills. Our kids have too many things out there that can impact their lives from most importantly, what y'all need to know as parents is that one pill can kill.
And explain to our parents how they're getting those pills too. I mean, it's as easy as getting it through a cell phone.
Yes. Our investigations have changed. We used to do a lot of the undercover investigations, identifying the drug traffickers. Now we're online. They're using social media, Snapchat, different applications to try to purchase their drugs. And that's what we're trying to identify as well. Anybody who is selling to our youth, we're going to target you and we're going to arrest that person.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And remember, one pill can kill. Our final guest today is Police Investigator Jorge Rodriguez from the Mission Police Department. He is bringing us information on alcohol consumption, and make sure to send us your questions through Facebook Messenger if you have any of those pertinent questions. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Tell us a little bit about your background and what it is that you do for the Mission Police Department.
Well, I started working with the Mission Police Department 7 years ago. I started as a patrol officer. Then I was fortunate enough to be selected to go to the schools, where I had the privilege of working for Mission High School. I worked for Roosevelt Alternative School as well, and Veterans High School. After approximately 3 years of working at the schools, I applied to be an investigator, and right now I'm handling cases against persons, and I'm also one of the public information officers for the Mission Police Department.
Wow. A lot of history there with our district.
Yes, yes.
So going right into and talking about alcohol, what is the legal age for drinking? And what happens to someone that does not meet that legal drinking age?
Okay, well, under the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Code, a minor is considered a person under the age of 21. So anybody who consumes alcohol under the age of 21 is committing a crime. What was the second question?
Well, it was just what happens to someone that
Okay.
does not meet the legal drinking
Okay,
age?
so there are fines. They get arrested if they consume an alcoholic beverage, if they purchase an alcoholic beverage, if they're driving, any detectable amount of alcoholic beverage on a minor is a crime. So let's say we have somebody driving who is 20 years of age, and the officer conducts a traffic stop on this person of 20 years old. The officer is able to detect an order of alcoholic beverage on the 20-year-old. The 20-year-old gets arrested, right? And let's say that after that, they take him to the station where he has to submit himself to a breathalyzer test. And let's say he blows under the legal limit, which is 0.08. He still gets charged, even though he didn't reach that 0.08. He still gets charged because he consumed alcoholic beverages.
And he wasn't of age.
Yes, and he wasn't of age.
And I know that you touched upon it a little while ago. What is the legal alcohol limit?
Okay, well, the legal alcohol limit is 0.08. That's blood alcohol concentration.
And what happens to someone, and maybe not a minor, but what happens to someone that's over 21 that gets caught over the legal limit?
Okay, well, he could get charged with a Class B misdemeanor if his blood alcoholic concentration is 0.15 or above. It's a Class A misdemeanor. Now, if this person is operating a motor vehicle with a person under the age of 15, it's a state jail felony. We've had several cases where we have parents who are under the influence of their prescribed medication. This is very important. That when you go to a doctor, you ask the doctor what are the side effects of the medication. Because a lot of times the doctors won't tell you if you can drive or you cannot drive. So we had situations where the parents are driving, they have their kids in the back. The officer conducts a traffic stop. They cannot operate under the influence of their own medication. They could get charged with, it's called Section 49045, which is operating a motor vehicle under the influence with a child. They'll get charged with a state jail felony.
Could you explain how someone may be charged with intoxication and manslaughter?
Okay, so we have
two offenses, right? We have intoxication assault and intoxication manslaughter. Intoxication assault is a third-degree felony, and this happens when a person is under the influence of alcohol or intoxicated, doesn't matter if it's drugs or alcohol, and they're involved in an accident and another person gets hurt with a serious bodily injury. This person can get charged with intoxication assault. If this same scenario, but another person dies, this person can get charged with intoxication manslaughter, which is a second-degree felony. These are very serious charges. You know, you can ruin your own life and ruin somebody else's life. You ruin an entire family. And we unfortunately, and I hate to say it, that Hidalgo County is the second county in the state of Texas with more fatalities involving alcohol. Only under Harris County, which, you know, Harris County has 5 times more the population of Hidalgo County, so we're not doing very good, unfortunately.
Hopefully, presentations like this can help deter that kind of behavior and bring in the knowledge for parents and our kids and stuff, so that they can make wise choices. And
That's the reason why we're here, to make awareness. Now, the Mission Police Department right now, from March 3rd to March 19th, we have a STEP program. We're going to be focusing on DWIs, on racing during this spring break. So we're going to have extra patrol in our city. We're going to be attacking those problems. The last thing we want is some families to go through these awful experiences. So we're going to be targeting those.
And I know that you talked a little bit about the punishments of an intoxication misdemeanor. But do you want to go ahead and tell our audience again what it entails, like if they get caught and it's a misdemeanor?
Yeah, so let's say minor in possession of alcoholic beverages, a Class C misdemeanor. It's a fine not more than $500. He could get arrested. A DWI with a BAC of 0.08 is a Class B misdemeanor. A DWI with a BAC of 0.15 or above is a Class A misdemeanor, which is a fine not more than $4,000 or a year in county jail. Also, a intoxication assault, which we already mentioned, which is a third-degree felony, is from 2 to 10 years in county jail and a fine not more of $10,000. And intoxication manslaughter, you could be incarcerated from 2 to 20 years and a fine not more than $10,000. Also, I want to mention that furnishing alcoholic beverages to a minor, right now we have these parents who want to be the cool parents and want the kids to invite their friends over, and they start giving them alcoholic beverages. Well, these parents can get charged for furnishing alcoholic beverages to a minor, which is a Class A misdemeanor. Also, selling alcoholic beverages to a minor is also a Class A misdemeanor. So be careful with, parents, be careful with what you do.
Thank you for that advice. What is your recommendation for someone that has been out drinking and now wants to get home?
Well, nowadays we have several options, right? We have the Uber, we have Lyft, but my recommendation is don't be afraid to call your parents. Don't be afraid to call your aunt, your uncle. You know, they'll probably get after you, but that's better than ruining your life. That's better than ruining somebody else's life. You know, we've seen it, unfortunately, in our city. We've seen people 18 years of age ruin their lives because they made bad choices. Don't be afraid. Call someone to pick you up. Call someone. Call your mom, your dad. Yes, they'll get after you, whatever. But you know what? You prevented yourself from putting yourself in an awful situation.
And unfortunately, one person's decision can affect so many different people for that one choice.
Yes, yes, and we had an unfortunate incident approximately a month and a half ago where an intoxicated driver ran a red light, crashed against a family of five. The mom of this family lost her life. Three other members of this family suffered serious bodily injury, and another suffered injuries, fortunately not so serious. But this guy destroyed this family, and that's what we want to prevent. Parents, you guys stop wanting to be the cool parent. Stop wanting to be the friend. You guys are the guys. You guys are parents. You guys have to guide your parent, your kids. You know, your kids already have enough friends. Stop wanting to be the cool friend of your kid. Start being this guy in the family. The kids are going to be looking at what you do. The kids are you're the example of the kids. If the kids see that you drive under the influence, the kids are going to think this is normal. They're going to want to be doing the same thing. So let's try to be examples for the kids.
Do we have any Facebook questions that have come in? I don't see them.
Remember, don't drink and drive. That's why we're here.
Oh, I don't see them on here. Okay. Sorry, we're having a little technical difficulty with our iPad here. Okay, we do have a question. What happens if a student is intoxicated on school premises? I mean, we have our consequences, our district consequences, but on the legal standpoint, what would that entail?
It's public intoxication. So if the child is intoxicated, well, he gets a fine of not more than $500. If he's in our department, if he's 17 years of age or older, he gets arrested. If he's under the age of 17, the case just gets forwarded to our municipal court. The parents are going to have to pay a fine.
Thank you. And in closing, let's remind parents what you just said a little while ago.
Yeah, well, basically, let's be the example to our kids. Let's set the example. Let's show them with actions that drinking and driving isn't okay. And let's give them the trust. Mijo, if you're ever in a situation, where, you drank, and even though you weren't supposed to drink, let's give our kids that trust to call us, and we'll go and we'll pick them up wherever they're at. Let's remember, don't drink and drive. That's what we're here for. We're here to send out that message. When I told you guys before that Hidalgo County is the second county in the state of Texas with more fatalities involving drinking and driving, it's something very serious. We have to talk about our kids about these subjects and let them know what happens when somebody's drinking and driving. What can happen? Not only that, let's say you get arrested for DWI, that right there could limit yourself to not apply for certain jobs. So we have to think about the future as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. Well, that wraps up our Facebook Live. Thank you for joining us and letting us provide you the latest information and how to help your child stay safe. Please take a moment to speak with your children to reinforce everything that was shared here today. And again, a special thank you to our guest, Osiris Medina from Behavioral Health Solutions of South Texas, Sandra Bagwell, Commander Juan Cifuentes from Hidalgo County High Intensity Drug Trafficking Areas, and investigator Jorge Rodriguez from the Mission Police Department. Thank you.